So for people who are, paying attention, which is, it's hard to not be all over the place. I know it's hard to even focus on any one thing, but the way we treat immigrants in this country is abhorrent. And especially for a country that's completely comprised of immigrant people in the first place. But so for people who are unaware, when we were in Afghanistan for 20 years, there were a lot of people in Afghanistan, Afghan people who were helping us, siding with us, and fighting against the Taliban. Like that was a thing. And there were a lot of people, whether they were interpreters, whatever their purpose was, and their families. And when everything went crazy and we just bailed and left them there, they evacuated a bunch of these people at one point to Qatar, which is where the bulk of them are now. And that's where we are. So they have been waiting since then. That was in Joe Biden's administration. They've all been stuck in purgatory. And there's I want to say it's like 1,000 people. So we're going to look at that. This is where we are basically now with this and what this administration wants to do to these people that we have forgotten about. Okay. Trump administration may send Afghans who aided US forces to the Congo. Okay, let's scroll. Let's see. Hundreds of Afghans who helped the United States during its war on terror may be sent to the Democratic Republic of the Congo after President Trump halted their US settlement, an advocacy group said this week. Sean Van Diver, founder and president of the advocacy group Afghan Evac, said he had been briefed by multiple officials on the Trump administration's plan, which was first reported by the New York Times. The 1,100 Afghans consist of interpreters as well as relatives of U.S. military members, including more than 400 children and hundreds of women. They are currently in U.S. custody at a U.S. managed transit facility in Qatar. Okay, so they've been there for quite a while, but we haven't really talked about these people. Van Diver said his understanding of the administration's plan is that the Afghans will be given the choice, and let's talk about the Sophie's choice, shall we, to voluntarily resettle in Congo or move back to Afghanistan, where he said they could be targeted by Taliban forces. The White House did not respond to a request for a comment. The DRC is not a responsible option, Van Diver said. You cannot call a choice voluntary when the two options are the Congo and the Taliban, civil war, or an oppressor who wants to kill you. Okay, keep scrolling, please. This is how we're treating the people that helped us. Yeah, don't help us. Don't help us. Congo is experiencing one of the world's worst humanitarian crises as armed groups fight over territory with millions of people displaced. According to the UN Refugee Agency, 8.2 million people were displaced as of September 2025, with the number expected to reach 9 million by the end of the year. In the Congo, where we're now sending the people that helped us in Afghanistan to a country they've never been, don't speak the language, and have no connections. We're sending them to this place with all these other displaced people. Congo, already hosting over 600,000 refugees and in an active armed conflict, is not considered a safe or suitable resettlement option. But that's where we're at, people. That's where we're at. This is not trying to resettle. This is trying to send them back to Afghanistan, where the Taliban has documented record of killing people with U.S. service ties. Of course they will. Mm-hmm. So, okay, this is what, all right. So this is going on right now while they're also trying to denaturalize citizens here. This is also happening. 1,100 people, we're just going to send them to a country they have no connection to. Why can't they come here? So they were good enough to help us. They were good enough for us to use their services, but they're not good enough to live here. We don't trust them to live here. Okay. So, all right, we can move on. That's immigration story number one I wanted to share with everybody. Okay. This has also been going on and people do not realize. So in an ICE detention facility in Michigan, there has been a hunger strike that has been going on in protest of the conditions. And this is another one of those stories that I've been meaning to talk about, and we need to know, Okay, so lawmakers and activists demand answers after ICE detainees launch hunger strike at Michigan facility. Okay, the North Lake Processing Center. Yes, they're called processing centers because that's what they are. They process people. Lawmakers and civil rights groups in Michigan are demanding an independent investigation of the North Lake Processing Center. This is in Baldwin. I'm not sure where that is in Michigan. The initiative came after immigrants under custody in the privately operated ICE facility launched a hunger and labor strike to protest what advocates described as medical neglect, inadequate food, and prolonged detention. The ACLU of Michigan and Michigan Immigrant Rights Center called on Congress to require an independent investigation into the facility. This is not going to happen. The group said they have been in contact with detainees who described similar inhumane conditions over the 10 months since the facility opened, includes life-threatening delays and denials of care, lack of follow-up after hospitalization, and denial of prescription drugs or requiring payment from immigrants being held in detention, like they have just money on them, to get their necessary medications. Some have described witnessing people in severe medical distress or collapsing and having to beg staff sometimes for hours to provide medical care. Representative Delia Ramirez of Illinois, who reposted a Chicago Tribune report about the strike and wrote that she stood in solidarity with the hundreds of immigrants detained at the ICE North Lake facility who were denouncing medical neglect and inhumane conditions. How big of you, Delia, to stand in solidarity?
That's the most that you would do?
You put out a quote, Delia? You stand in solidarity?
Did you write a strongly worded letter to go along with it?
This is what we're dealing with. So on December 15th,
sorry, guys, I've got a career to think about. That's a few hundred people that have to die, but hey.
I mean, this is what we're doing here. So I think this is going to tell the beginning of where the hunger strike started, because this has been going on for a while. I just really felt the need to do like a quick immigration recap. On December 15th, a 56-year-old Bulgarian national identified as Nenko Stanavganchev died on December 15th at the center in Baldwin. The facility is operated by private prison company Geo Group.
Still around?
Mm-hmm. No detention centers said the facility has held more than 1,000 people since reopening in June 25 as the largest ICE detention center in the Midwest. The coalition has said that the center has previous history of hunger strikes when Geo operated it as an immigrant-only federal prison. Oh my God, they needed bodies to fill their prison. They needed bodies. Meanwhile, these people are being held without due process. I want to make that very, very clear. These are people that have not had due process. These are people that have been rounded up and are sitting in a prison where we send people that have been convicted of crimes, and they're sitting there, no due process. And so there is a hunger strike. So the protest began a week ago. A statewide coalition said that men held multiple units at the Geo Group run facility have chosen to refuse food. They said detainees were protesting dangerous conditions. We demand competent doctors, better medical care. The food here is absolute garbage. And above all, an end to the procedural delays we are suffering through inside these walls. Scroll. Executive director of the ACLU said the organization had opposed the reopening of the detention because of fears of its condition. So it had already been closed down because of its conditions from previous hunger strikes. Then it was reopened to house ICE detainees because why not have Geo Group make some money in this whole mix? Get a few extra.
Everything's about profiting.
The Department of Homeland Security disputed the allegations.
Of course it did.
Okay, well, thank you. So they disputed it. Okay, everyone go back to lunch now. It's been disputed.
Brunch.
A DHS spokesperson told the CBS Detroit News, there is no hunger strike, and claims of poor conditions are false. All detainees are provided with 3 meals a day, clean water, clothing, bedding, shower, soap, and toiletries. DHS also said ICE provides medical, dental, mental health, as available, and access to medical appointments and 24-hour emergency care. Miriam Ackerman, the ACLU's director of strategic litigation, said the detention complaints are also tied to bond denials and access to fair hearings. This sudden unexplained spike in bond denial rates raises questions about whether non-citizens are getting fair hearings.
You think?
Susan Reed, director of Michigan Immigrant Rights Center, said immigration detention in Michigan has increased sharply. Detained people seeking legal assistance share their stories with us every day, and we are gravely concerned about their safety and well-being of people held by the government. We urge immediate action to improve conditions and release the many who are detained needlessly. How about all of them? Because if you needed to detain them, you'd be able to make your case by now. And there is one more story. We're going to end on the positive note about immigration or about ICE is, and I said this many months ago, guys, go back and find me saying this, let them try this shit in Philadelphia. Let ICE try this shit in Philadelphia, and Philly showed up. So Philadelphia City Council passes landmark ICE out legislation. Scroll. Philadelphia City Council passed a package of 7 bills restricting ICE activities in the city with a veto-proof majority. The measures were first introduced at the end of January. We don't need to know everybody's names, just days after ICE murdered 2 people in Minneapolis. Scroll. I'm expediting. This is fun. Scroll so we can see what the legislation does, because that's what I really want to point out. Here we go. The ICE out legislation in Philly, and this is a city thing, so again, local politics matters. ICE out legislation prohibits ICE and all other law enforcement officers from wearing masks or using unmarked vehicles. It requires them to display badges, with exceptions for undercover work, SWAT teams, and medical purposes. Codifies the city's longstanding commitment to not participating in collaboration agreements with ICE, prohibits city agencies, including police, from collaborating with ICE and other federal civil immigration enforcement agents without a warrant. They're actually having due process in Philly. This is shocking. Prohibits city agencies from collecting information on people's citizenship or immigration status and sharing that information or personal data with ICE. Prohibits discrimination based on citizenship or immigration status by city agencies. Bars ICE from conducting raids on city-owned properties. Bans ICE from, absent a warrant, to city-owned spaces, including libraries, healthcares, shelters, and rec centers. And I bet you anything that probably schools are not going to be attacked here either. The mood was celebratory as a packed council chambers on Thursday. Supporters and members of immigrant rights organizations greeted them as they filed out, blah, 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 blah. And that is ending on a happy note. Yay, Philadelphia. Yay, Philadelphia for standing up to bullies. I knew that they would. And if you didn't know, half of my people were Philly people. My mom's family was Philly. My dad's family was Brooklyn. So I'd like to, shout out to the Philly people.
Go Giants.
This is not a sporty thing, okay? This is not about your sporty team.